God spoke to Abraham. In the quiet moments of his life, amidst the vastness of the desert and the starry skies, Abraham heard a voice that would change the course of his destiny. It was a voice filled with hope, a voice that carried the weight of a divine promise. He made a wonderful promise. This promise was not just any ordinary assurance, it was a covenant that would span generations and shape the future of nations. Abraham, a man of faith, listened intently as God unfolded his grand plan. He told Abraham he would have many descendants. Despite his old age and the seeming impossibility of the promise, Abraham's heart swelled with hope. He envisioned a future where his lineage would flourish, where his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the grains of sand on the seashore. Abraham would be the father of a great nation. This nation would be blessed beyond measure, a beacon of light and hope for the world. The promise was grand, almost too grand to comprehend, but Abraham's faith was unwavering. God would bless him greatly. Abraham was excited. He believed God's promise. With every fiber of his being, he trusted in the words spoken to him. He shared this divine revelation with his wife Sarah, and together they embraced the promise with open hearts. Abraham and his wife Sarah left their home. They left behind the familiar comforts of their past, stepping into the unknown with nothing but their faith to guide them. Their journey was not just a physical one, but a spiritual odyssey, a testament to their unwavering trust in God's plan. They traveled to a new land. This land, promised by God, was a place they had never seen before. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, a land that held the promise of a new beginning. Every step they took was a step of faith, a step towards the fulfillment of God's promise. God promised to give them this land. It was a land of hope, a land where their descendants would thrive and grow. Abraham and Sarah stood on the hills, looking out at the vast expanse before them, their hearts filled with gratitude and anticipation. He promised to bless them there. The blessings were not just material but spiritual and emotional. They felt God's presence in every moment, in every breath they took. Their faith was their anchor, their guiding light in this new chapter of their lives. Abraham and Sarah trusted God. Their trust was unwavering, their faith unshakable. They knew that God's promises were true, and they held on to that truth with all their might. Their journey was a testament to their faith, a journey that would inspire generations to come. They looked forward to seeing his promise come true. With every sunrise, they were reminded of God's faithfulness. With every step, they moved closer to the fulfillment of the grand promise. Their story is a story of faith, hope, and unwavering trust in the divine. Many years passed. Abraham and Sarah grew old. They still had no children. God's promise seemed impossible, but Abraham never stopped believing. He knew God would keep his word. Sarah felt sad. She wanted a child very much. She wondered if God had forgotten his promise. But God had a plan. He would show his power and faithfulness. One day God appeared to Abraham. He repeated his promise. He said that Sarah would have a son. Abraham was amazed. He laughed because he was so old, but God's promise was true. Sarah gave birth to a baby boy. They named him Isaac. Isaac was a miracle. He was a sign of God's love and faithfulness. Abraham and Sarah were overjoyed. God had kept his promise. Isaac grew into a young boy. He was the joy of his parents' lives. One day God spoke to Abraham. He gave Abraham a very difficult task. He told Abraham to take Isaac to a certain mountain. Abraham obeyed God. The journey was long and difficult. It took them 3 days to reach the mountain. Abraham didn't fully understand why God had asked him to do this, but he trusted God completely. God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. He asked Abraham to offer Isaac as a burnt offering. Abraham was heartbroken. He loved Isaac very much. This was a terrible thing to ask. Abraham didn't argue with God. He didn't get angry. He loved God and trusted him. Abraham believed that God was good even when it was hard. He knew that God had a plan. Section 6. Unwavering Faith. Abraham built an altar. He placed the wood on it. Then he bound Isaac's hands and feet. He laid him on the altar. Abraham took the knife. He lifted it high. He was ready to obey God. Abraham had complete faith in God. He believed that God could raise Isaac from the dead. He knew that God would keep his promise. He trusted God even when he didn't understand. Section 7. A ram in the thicket. At that moment the angel of the Lord called out to Abraham. He told Abraham to stop. God saw Abraham's faithfulness. He knew that Abraham trusted him. Abraham had passed the test. God provided a ram caught in a thicket. Abraham took the ram. He sacrificed it in Isaac's place. God had spared Isaac. Abraham was relieved and joyful. He praised God for his mercy and provision. Section 8. Lessons from Mount Moriah. Mount Moriah, a place of profound significance, holds timeless lessons for us all. It is here that the story of Abraham and Isaac unfolds, a narrative rich with meaning and depth. The story of Abraham and Isaac teaches us important lessons. This ancient tale, passed down through generations, is not just a story of faith, but also one of trust, obedience, and divine providence. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives and our relationship with the divine. First, we learn about faith. Faith is the cornerstone of our spiritual journey. It is the belief in the unseen, the trust in the unknown. Abraham's journey to Mount Moriah was a testament to his unwavering faith in God. He believed in God's promise, even when the path was unclear. Abraham's faith in God was strong. He was willing to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac, trusting that God had a greater plan. This act of faith was not just about obedience but about complete surrender to God's will. It teaches us that true faith requires us to let go of our fears and doubts. He trusted God even when it was hard. Life often presents us with challenges and crossroads, moments where our faith is tested. Abraham's story reminds us that in these moments we must hold on to our faith, trusting that God is guiding us, even when the way forward seems difficult. We too should trust God, even when we don't understand. Our understanding is limited, but God's wisdom is infinite. When we face uncertainties, we should remember Abraham's example and place our trust in God's greater plan. This trust is the foundation of a strong spiritual life. Second, we learn about obedience. Abraham obeyed God's commands. Obedience is not always easy, but it is essential. It requires us to listen to God's voice and follow His guidance, even when it goes against our own desires or understanding, even when they were difficult. Abraham's willingness to obey, even in the face of great personal loss, shows us the importance of putting God's will above our own. It is through obedience that we align ourselves with God's purpose for our lives. We should also obey God even when it's hard. Obedience pleases God. It is a demonstration of our love and respect for Him. When we obey, we show that we trust in His wisdom and His plan for us. Disobedience is not about blind submission, but about a deep, trusting relationship with our Creator. God rewards those who obey Him. The story of Abraham and Isaac ends with God's provision of a ram, a symbol of His faithfulness and reward for obedience. This teaches us that when we trust and obey God, He provides for us in ways we may not expect. The rewards of obedience are not always immediate, but they are always profound and life-changing. Section 9. A legacy of faith. Finally, we learn about God's provision. Throughout history, there have been countless stories of divine intervention and miraculous provision. These stories serve as a testament to the unwavering faith and trust that people have placed in God. They remind us that, even in the most challenging times, there is hope and assurance in His promises. One of the most profound examples of God's provision is the story of Abraham and Isaac. In a moment of ultimate test, God provided a ram for the sacrifice, sparing Isaac's life. This act was not just a demonstration of God's mercy, but also a powerful symbol of His commitment to His people. It showed that God is always watching over us, ready to provide in our time of need. Just as God provided for Abraham and Isaac, He will also provide for our needs. Whether it's through the support of family and friends, the kindness of strangers, or unexpected blessings, God's provision comes in many forms. It's a reminder that we are never alone, and that help is always within reach. We can trust Him to take care of us. In moments of doubt and uncertainty, prayer becomes our refuge. Through prayer we connect with God, seeking His guidance and reassurance. It's in these quiet moments of reflection that we find peace, knowing that God is in control, and that He has a plan for each of us. The story of Abraham and Isaac is a story of hope. It teaches us that faith, even when tested, can lead to incredible outcomes. Abraham's unwavering faith in God, even when asked to make the ultimate sacrifice, is a powerful lesson for all of us. It shows that when we place our trust in God, we open ourselves to His blessings and miracles. It reminds us that God is faithful. He keeps His promises. Just as the rainbow after the flood was a sign of God's covenant with Noah, the story of Abraham and Isaac is a testament to God's enduring faithfulness. These stories from the Bible are not just ancient tales but living reminders of God's love and commitment to us. He will never leave us nor forsake us. In times of joy and in times of sorrow, God's presence is a constant source of comfort. The support of loved ones, the kindness of friends, and the strength we find in our faith are all manifestations of God's unwavering presence in our lives. We can always trust in Him. As we navigate the journey of life with its ups and downs, we can find solace in the knowledge that God is always with us. His love, guidance, and provision are ever present, giving us the strength to face each day with hope and confidence. This legacy of faith, passed down through generations, continues to inspire and uplift us, reminding us of the boundless grace and mercy of God.